Hey students, we are doing 6.3b today, and that is fractions on a number line. If you remember from yesterday, we did a number line and we talked about decimals. So for example, you can have negative 4.5, right? And you can have positive 4.5 or 4.5. So we're going to be throwing in fractions here. A lot of students get confused by fractions, so there's a couple of things I just want to teach you about what you can do to make dealing with fractions on a number line a little bit easier. Okay, so let's begin by looking at our bell work for today. Our bell work, this first one should look very, very familiar to you. We're finding the surface area of this triangular prism. And if I was going to unfold this shape here, it would look something like this. We would have a square base, and then we would have these triangles that would go like this. So we're looking at a five-sided figure here. And, oh, I'm sorry, this is not a prism. This is a pyramid because it only has one base. I said that incorrectly. We know that this pyramid has a square on the bottom because it tells us that it's 9 and 9. So right there, we know that we have a square. And it's 9 times 9, which is 81. So we have 81 meters squared on that square. Now let's talk about the triangles for a minute. We know that all the triangles are the same. So I'm just going to take a little bit of a shortcut. I'm going to go triangle times 4. So to find the area of this triangle, well, we need the base and the height. So we have base times height divided by 2. Our base is 9. Our height is 6, and we're going to divide that by 2. And because we can, we're going to use a calculator. We're going to go 9 times 6 divided by 2 equals 27. So we have 27, but we have to times it by 4. So I'm going to take 27 and times it by 4, and I get 108. So this is 108, and this is 81. Now let's add them together, plus 81, and we get 189 meters squared. Again, just a reminder, a surface area means that we're finding the area of all surfaces and adding them together. So let's take a look at number 2 now. It says use the distributive property and write an equivalent expression. So we are going to go 3 times 2x is 6x. And 3 times positive 4y is 12y. And because the x and the y are different variables, we can't combine them. So that is our answer. Number 3, this is the stuff that we've been talking about recently in class. And this first one, an ocean depth of 900 feet. So we're 900 feet under the ocean is a negative 900, and a mountain elevation of 5,000. So we're up on a mountain, it's up, so we're going to be doing 5,000. That's our answers. So bell work, not too difficult. Okay, let's move on. Okay, here are your notes for fractions on a number line. So the first thing that you have to realize with fractions is sometimes they're difficult. I don't know what else to say. They're kind of hard to look at sometimes. But they're not impossible to deal with. If you think half and you think 3/4, which one's bigger? A lot of people have a hard time deciding which ones are bigger because fractions are kind of misleading. But you can always change these into decimals. So if you go 1 divided by 2, that gives me it gives me 0.5 or a half. That's how you write a half in a decimal. And if I take the other fraction, 3 divided by 4, it gives me 75 hundredths. Okay, now you have to think about this. Which one would you rather have? This right here is 50 cents, and this is 75 cents. So would you rather have 50 cents or 75 cents? Well, I'd rather have 75 cents. So 3/4 is bigger. So yes, you can always change these into decimals if they're just like way too difficult to see in your head what's going on. Or you can say this, like on number 2, you can say, would you rather have negative 1.5 of something, or $1.50, or would you rather have negative 2 3/4? Well, I would rather owe somebody negative $1.50 than $2 3/4. So that's why that one's bigger. Also, if you were to look on a number line, if I was to draw this, here's my number line, and zero's in the middle, and let's put 0 more over on this side because they're both negative, and I have -1 right here and -2 right here. Well, where would -1.5 be? It would be right here, so that's -1.5. And then -2 3/4 would be like way over here. So -2 3/4. So you can see that this is the bigger number. This is the smaller number over here. Okay, so that might help you to kind of see that. So again, looking at this, -2 3/4. And see, here's where sometimes fractions are hard and misleading. Like 1/8. Well, what is 1/8? Well, we can always change it into a decimal. So 1 divided by 8 gives me 125 thousandths. So I would write this as negative 2.125. If I rounded that, you could round this and turn this into a 3. So if you wanted to do that, that would work. And then we know that -2 3/4 is 2 75 hundredths. So which one is less? Well, again, comparing these looking like they're money, this one right here is the one that's furthest away from 0. So it is the smaller number. I'm sorry, I wrote that wrong. This one is less than, like this. There we go. Okay, looking at this next one. Okay, -1/2 or -3/4. -3/4 is for less than -1/2. So there you go. So fractions, there is a little bit of a trick to them, and sometimes you just have to change them into decimals. It makes it a lot easier, in my opinion. Okay, so let's take a look at these and see which one is furthest away from 0 on the negative side. Well, we've got this guy right here. -2 3/4 is furthest away. Then we've got -2 1/4. Then we've got -1 5/8. And then we have -1/2. And where on the line would we want to put these? Well, let's kind of look at this. I'm going to change my color to a red so we can plot these and see them. So -2, so I'm going to go, all right, -2, -1, -2, and then 3/4 is about, 1/4, 2/4 is half, 3/4. So we're going to make a dot right there. So -2 3/4 make a dot. That is my A. Okay, now let's look at B, -2 1/4. So because we have these in order, if A's here, where would B have to be? Somewhere over here. We're going to be going this way because we have them in order now. If we went A here and then B was here, we did it wrong. It has to go this way. So -2 1/4, well, that would be about right here. So we're going to go B. Then we have 1 5/8. Well, if we think about 4/8, what would 4/8 be? That would be a half. So this is barely more than -1.5. So -1.5, a little bit further than half, but not much. That's where C would be. And then D would be -0.5, which is kind of an easier one, but that would be where D is. So you can see that we kind of went in an order here from left to right because we have these in order. That's kind of your signal to know that you're graphing these correctly. Let's move on to number 2. Number 2, okay, furthest away from 0. All right, on the left-hand side, on the negative side of things. So we're going to have -4 3/4. That's the furthest away. Then we have -4 1/4. Then we have -3 1/2. And then -2 1/5. All right, now we can plot these. So let's use a different color again so we don't get things confused. So -4 3/4. If I broke up in between 4 and 5 into fourths, into quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we want the third one, 3/4. So we're going to go A. Then B would be -4 1/4, which would be about right there. B. C, -3 1/2. The halves are kind of easy. So C. And then D is -2 1/5. Wow. What would you do to find out where 1/5 would be? Well, think about it this way. If I broke up in between here and here into 5 pieces, where would the 1/5 be? About right there. So here we go. We're going to put a D right there. Not too bad. You just kind of have to think about things logically when you're doing things with fractions. Okay, so which one is the furthest away from 0 on the negative side? Well, we've got -2 3/5. Then we've got -1 1/2. Then we got -5/8. And then we have a +2 3/4. Okay, so let's graph these. Where would -2 3/5 be? Well, using my counter, I'm going to go -2. And then if I broke this into fifths, where would the third be? 1, 2, almost a half. So it'd be just barely shy. So it'd be right there. So 2 3/5 would be about right there. I'm going to put an A. -1 1/2. We don't have to talk about the halves a whole lot because they're pretty easy. -5/8. Okay, now this is one of those the ones that you kind of have to think about for a minute. So if there's no whole number here, so it's just 5/8 from 0 going this way. So if we broke this into 8 pieces, well, 4/8 would be here, right? So 5/8 would be just a little bit further, and that would be where C would be. And then D would be 2 3/4, and that's positive. So we go over to 2, and then 3/4. Well, 4/4 is all the way across, so 3/4 is going to be a little bit less of that. So it's going to be right there, and that would be D. All right, so there's your notes. Hopefully that makes sense to you, that you just kind of have to work with these fractions and kind of slow down and think, okay, where is this on this number line? And think about the bottom number is the total amount of little pieces in between the whole numbers, and then you figure it out from there. Let's move on to your assignment. Okay, there is no practice on this one. So you're going to be using your notes to help you out with the assignment on this. So if you take a look at this, these activities are just like what we found in your notes. So you're going to have to graph numbers. You're going to have to put numbers in order from least to greatest. So give this a shot. Try your hardest. If you need help, come see your teacher. Also, do not forget to put your answers into GoFormative. Thanks.